I don't remember what show was playing on the muted TV. The only sound in that dim living room was the tail end of her sentence. I just feel bored, Andrew. She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. But I swear, it felt like she'd reached inside my chest and flicked the breaker off. Bored. Kara sat there curled on the corner of our brown sectional, legs tucked under her like nothing was wrong. Her voice had that breezy, indifferent tone she used when she wanted to say something cruel without claiming the weight of it. Bored, I echoed, carefully, setting down my drink on the coffee table. You mean, with dinner? Or the show? Or your life? She didn't flinch. I don't know, Andrew. Everything. This routine. Us. You. I didn't mean it as an attack. But you knew it would hit like one, I said, my voice lower now. She rolled her eyes and gave a bitter little smile. I can't say how I feel now. Oh, you can say whatever you want, I replied. But don't act surprised when the weight of your words actually lands. Something shifted in her posture. Defensive now. Her arms crossed, her gaze darting away. I'm not blaming you, she muttered. I'm just tired of feeling like every day is the same. You go to work, I go to work, we eat, we sleep. Rinse, repeat. So you want excitement? I said. You want fireworks? Or a different man, maybe? That was a knife thrown in the dark, but it landed somewhere close to something she wasn't ready to admit. Kara shot up from the couch. That's not fair. No, I said, standing too, slow and deliberate. What's not fair is throwing the word bored at a man who's been building a life with you brick by brick. What exactly do you think boredom costs, Kara? Because it cost me everything. She took a shaky breath. I never said I didn't love you. You said it without saying it. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. But my voice, low, steady, controlled, made her recoil more than any raised shout ever could. You don't get to float boredom into the room like perfume and pretend it doesn't stink, I said. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Instead, she spun around, grabbed her phone from the armrest, and stormed upstairs. Each step of hers creaked with the weight of everything unsaid. The front door didn't slam, but her silence was louder than any goodbye. I stayed there, staring into the quiet. The TV flickered. The walls held the echo of the life we built. Photos of a wedding in Boulder, vacations to Breckenridge. 2 bikes leaned in the hallway we never rode anymore. I sank slowly into the couch and exhaled. Here's what you should know about me. My name's Andrew. I'm a numbers guy, systems analyst for a mid-sized firm in downtown Denver. 38. Quiet. Predictable. I take the trash out on Thursdays, water the plants every Saturday morning. I don't forget birthdays, and I don't raise my voice unless it's to cheer for the Broncos. And until tonight, I genuinely believed that was enough. We live in a brick duplex just west of Sloan's Lake. One of those neighborhoods where the lawns are neat, the arguments are quiet, and everything looks good from the outside. Like a postcard you'd send to people you never planned to visit. But tonight, something cracked open. I saw it in her eyes before she walked away, a flicker of guilt, maybe, or fear, but it was too late. And as I sat alone in that still room, I realized something chilling. This wasn't the beginning of our fight. It was the beginning of the end. And I was done playing dumb. The sunlight that poured into the kitchen the next morning felt almost sarcastic. Too warm, too clean, like it hadn't witnessed what was said the night before. I sat at the breakfast bar, scrolling the news on my phone, trying to act like I hadn't barely slept. The coffee maker hummed behind me, and the smell of toasted cinnamon rolls floated in the air. Kara moved through the kitchen like a scene from a commercial. Soft sweater, neat ponytail, smile glued in place. Morning, she chirped, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just cracked our life open 12 hours ago with one careless word. She slid a mug of coffee toward me and kissed the top of my head as if the scent of betrayal hadn't still lingered in her hair. Thought I'd make something sweet today, she said. You've been working so hard. Hard work. That's what she reached for. Safe ground. I looked up slowly, gave her a quiet nod. Thanks. I didn't ask if she slept well. I didn't tell her that I lay in the dark, counting the seconds between the upstairs floorboards creaking. That I'd heard her pacing after midnight. Heard her phone vibrate at least twice. She took a seat across from me. Biting into a cinnamon roll like this was just another Tuesday. You want one? She offered, voice light. I smiled faintly. Maybe later. She leaned forward, elbows on the counter, watching me like she was gauging the damage. Her eyes flicked to my phone. You've been quiet, she said. Just catching up on headlines. Anything interesting? I shrugged. Mostly noise. We both knew the real noise had happened in this kitchen last night. But she wasn't ready to revisit that. She wanted a clean slate. A pretend morning. But my silence wasn't about pretending. It was about observing. Because the moment Kara turned away to check the oven, I picked up my phone again and tapped open her Instagram profile. I don't even know what I was looking for. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Her recent posts were innocuous enough. A latte picture here, a rooftop sunset there. But it was the comments that caught my eye. A name I didn't recognize, showing up just a little too often. Bryce. _L. Always glowing. You deserve more weekends like this subtle. Just enough to slip under the radar. But when I clicked his profile, it all began to pull into focus. Private account. Profile picture of a guy in sunglasses and a backwards cap, standing near red rocks. Mutuals, none. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I locked the screen and set the phone down just as Kara turned back around. I was thinking, she said. Maybe we could do dinner at that sushi place this weekend. That new one near 17th? I nodded slowly. Sure. Her shoulders loosened slightly, like she thought the piece was holding. But something in her eyes gave her away. The way she scanned my face for clues. The way her smile kept resetting. She didn't know I'd already started looking for cracks. And the truth? I wasn't angry. Not in the way she expected. I was just awake. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't brushing things off. I wasn't filling the silence with apologies. I was letting it sit. Letting it speak. Kara reached across the counter, rested her hand over mine. I really do appreciate you, Andrew. I held her gaze. I know. That was all I gave her. The game was already shifting. She just didn't know what pieces I'd started moving. And somewhere deep inside, I think she felt it. Liam always picked the same booth, back corner of Harlan's pub, near the frosted window with the crooked blinds. Said it was quieter, better for thinking. We hadn't caught up in months, and he insisted we fix that immediately. I needed the distraction. Or maybe, deep down, I needed confirmation. He was already seated when I arrived, sipping something dark and foamy. Man of the hour, he grinned, standing for a quick back pat. Still doing that overworked and underfed analyst thing? Still pretending it makes me interesting, I said, managing a half smile. We ordered quick. Burgers, extra napkins. No pretense. I always liked Liam. He had that rare mix of blunt honesty and loyal restraint. The kind of guy who knew when to ask and when to let you sit with your silence. But today, he was watching me a little too closely. You look leaner, he noted, tapping his glass. Working out or just forgetting to eat again? Bit of both, I replied. Kara's been experimenting with air-fried vegetables. He snorted. The old silent treatment diet. I looked up sharply. What? He shrugged, innocently enough. You know, the long-married slump. You don't talk. She doesn't cook. You both get in shape. Works wonders for some. I tried to laugh. It came out hollow. The burgers arrived. The smell brought brief comfort. Grease. Onions. Something familiar in a world that was quickly going sideways. So how's Kara? He asked casually, picking at a fry. Still doing the nonprofit thing? She is, I said carefully. Busy. He nodded, chewed, then looked like he was about to say something. But stopped. I tilted my head. What? Liam hesitated, not something he did often. Then, leaning in slightly, he said, You ever meet that guy she used to hang around with at those gala events? Bryce something? The name hit like a tuning fork inside my chest. No, I said. Why? He sat back, swirling his drink lazily. Nothing really. Just, I ran into someone who used to work the catering circuit. They mentioned Kara might have been mixed up in something. Complicated a while back. But it ended. Clean break, apparently. I kept chewing. Slow. Measured. Pretending the bite hadn't suddenly turned to ash in my mouth. Complicated? I asked, like I was discussing someone else's wife. Could have been gossip, he said quickly. You know how people love to make drama out of proximity. I gave a tight nod. Right. But the word stuck. Complicated. The kind of word you use when you don't want to say affair. Liam moved on. Talked about a trip to Montana, some awkward date, a new promotion at work. I smiled, nodded, asked the right questions. But inside, my mind had already left the table. By the time we finished lunch, I couldn't even remember the taste of my food. Outside, the Denver wind picked up. Dry leaves scraped along the sidewalk like something restless, something exposed. As we parted, Liam clapped me on the shoulder. Hey, I'm sure it's nothing. You and Kara? You always seemed solid. Yeah, I said quietly. We used to be. He gave me a look then. One of those brief, knowing glances men only trade when something unspoken gets very loud. I drove home in silence, hands tight on the wheel. No music, just the hum of the engine and the sound of my own pulse in my ears. At a red light, I opened Kara's profile again, scrolled slower this time, studied the tags, the locations, and there it was, a photo from 2 months back. Her at a gallery event, laughing mid-sip, champagne flute in hand. Tagged beside her at Bryce. _L. The caption read, "Some nights remind you what you deserve." 100 likes. Mostly women. A few heart emojis. One comment from Bryce. That's when I felt it. Not rage. Clarity. She hadn't just opened the door to suspicion. She'd left it swinging wide, and now I was stepping through. The soft hum of my home office always used to soothe me. It was my space, where I ran analytics, sorted files, read in peace, cleared my head. But now, the air felt different in there. Not hostile, just alert. I sat in my usual chair, the same leather-backed one I'd had since grad school. Kara always joked it squeaked like an old man. I used to laugh with her. Tonight, it only made noise for me. I pulled out my phone and opened the backup app. One I'd installed quietly 2 nights ago. Something I'd stumbled on in a late-night spiral. It mirrored deleted messages if set up correctly. And Kara? She wasn't as thorough with her digital housekeeping as she liked to believe. I tapped into the thread labeled Bryce. The screen lit up with a string of messages. Recently deleted, but now preserved. Her words. His words. And with each swipe, my hands grew colder. I keep replaying last weekend in my head. I wish you didn't have to go home to him. When you kissed my shoulder before leaving. God, I almost told you not to go. And then hers. I know. It's harder every time. But it's not the right moment yet. He's been distracted lately. I think he suspects something. The last one hit hardest. Because she was right. I had suspected. And now I knew. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the desk. There wasn't a scream bottled up inside me. Just a strange, hollow quiet. Like walking through a burned-down house and realizing how much of it you already memorized before the fire. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. Bryce. The man from the comments. From the gallery photo. The one with the heart emojis. My wife had called him Sunlight. I scrolled further. Some images were pixelated now, unrecoverable. But I didn't need to see them. The words had already painted enough. What surprised me most was the emotion that settled next. Not jealousy, not hate, but relief. Not the kind that makes you smile. The kind that straightens your spine. Because clarity, even when it stings, is cleaner than doubt. I got up, paced to the bookshelf, touched the edge of the wedding photo Kara insisted we keep framed in wood. Her in white, me in navy, that wide Colorado sky behind us. I turned it face down, not out of spite, but because I needed space to think. I needed to see what was real now, not what used to be. The affair wasn't hypothetical anymore. It had a name, a voice, a timestamp. And me? I had time. Time to plan. Time to decide how this would end. On my terms. Because if there was one thing I knew with certainty now, this marriage wouldn't be buried in secrecy. It would be ended with dignity. And when that moment came, she would see me, not as the man she thought she could deceive, but as the one she never truly understood. I didn't mention the messages. Not that night. Not the next morning. I just stopped. Stopped answering her when she called from the couch, asking if I wanted to watch something. Stopped lingering in the kitchen after dinner, where we used to share the last bite of dessert. Stopped reaching for her under the sheets. I moved into the guest room by Thursday. No explanation. No fight. Just my pillow, blanket, and laptop relocated. Kara didn't ask why. She just stared at the open door, her mouth slightly parted, as if the question lived there, but her pride refused to let it breathe. I still came home at the same time every evening. Still rinsed my dishes, still changed into sweats, still worked late on the computer like I always did. Only now, the silence between us had a different weight. Before, it was just routine quiet, 2 adults coexisting. Now it was a wall, and she felt it. I watched her feel it. She tried to float over it, the way she always had. She'd poke her head into my office and ask if I wanted tea, her tone casual, her smile soft. I'd glance up from my screen. No, thanks. She'd hover another second, as if expecting me to fold. to look at her the way I used to. But I didn't. Not because I was angry, because I wasn't interested. I still said good morning. Still held the door when we left the house at the same time. Still refilled the Brita when it ran low. But I gave her nothing else. Not my stories. Not my warmth. Not my gaze. And that, I think, was worse than rage. Kara's charm had always worked in chaos. She knew how to cry in a way that earned forgiveness. Knew how to touch my arm just long enough to make me second-guess my anger. But with silence? With distance? She had no foothold. I noticed her pacing more now. She lingered in mirrors longer, adjusting her clothes even when we weren't going anywhere. She put on perfume to cook pasta. She lit candles during dinner, even though we didn't sit at the table together anymore. One night, she made steak, the exact way I liked it, medium rare, rosemary butter, crisp green beans. She plated it beautifully. I ate half of it, said thank you, and returned to my laptop. Didn't mention how it tasted. Didn't compliment the effort. I heard her clear the dishes quietly, alone in the kitchen. She'd never had to earn my attention before. Now, she couldn't buy it. And still, I said nothing about Bryce. Nothing about the texts. Nothing about the tiny, eroding truths she kept trying to patch over with cinnamon rolls and scented candles. Because I wasn't after a fight. I was after something slower. Something deeper. A reckoning. Not shouted. Not slammed. But lived. And every minute I didn't look at her the way I used to, that reckoning grew. I didn't set out to change. Not really. It started with a gym near my office. Nothing fancy. Just a place with old iron weights, fluorescent lights, and a faint smell of metal and sweat. The kind of place where no one cared what music was playing or if your shirt matched your sneakers. I signed up after work one night. Paid for 6 months up front. The next morning, I was there by 6:15. Treadmill first. Then weights. Nothing heroic, just movement. The first week, my body ached like it hadn't in years. By the second, the aches became something else, fuel. I started sleeping better. Thinking sharper. Breathing deeper. I shaved more often. Bought 2 new shirts. Slim fit. Dark blue and charcoal. Simple, clean. I replaced the sneakers Kara once bought me for Christmas. The ones I'd worn until the soles flattened. New pair. Black with crisp white trim. It wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. Something Kara picked up on immediately. She watched me from the kitchen one morning as I tied my new shoes and adjusted the cuff of my jeans. Her voice came lightly across the granite island. You're looking sharp lately. I didn't look up. Thanks. She tried again. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just living, I wanted to say. Just finally living like I matter to myself. I saw the way her eyes lingered when I walked past now. The subtle pause. The way she blinked a little slower, as if recalibrating a familiar image that no longer aligned. One night, she came into the guest room while I was scrolling through articles on my tablet. You've been working out, she said softly, leaning on the doorframe like we were strangers at a party. I nodded. A little. You look good. I met her gaze briefly. I feel good. Her shoulders dropped slightly. That's great. It wasn't small talk. It was curiosity cloaked in politeness. Because this wasn't the man she'd trained to orbit her needs. This wasn't the quiet husband who used to forget to clip stray threads from his collar. This was someone measured, composed, not chasing her anymore. The house began to feel different, too. Our routines drifted. I'd leave early, come home late. Sometimes I'd take the long way back just to be alone a little longer. The view from 23rd toward the city skyline, the smell of pine in the early air, the pulse in my wrist reminding me I was alive. Kara tried to recalibrate, but her compass was spinning. One night, I found her waiting for me at the door, hair down, wearing the green blouse I once said made her eyes look like mountain glass. You're late, she said with a smile. No, I'm just not early anymore. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she let the silence answer for her. Inside, the house was spotless. Candles lit again. Music low. Some jazz playlist she knew I liked. But the atmosphere didn't invite me anymore. It tried to pull me in, and failed. Because something had shifted, and not just in the way I dressed or moved. It was in the way I stood straighter, spoke less, listened more. And most of all, in the way I didn't need to be wanted by her anymore. Kara had once held the strings. Now she didn't even know where the knots were. And I was quietly undoing them. It started small. She made lasagna on a Tuesday night. Not the store-bought kind, the real one. Layers of ricotta and fresh basil, the way my mother used to make it before her arthritis got bad. Kara hadn't cooked it in years. Said it was too heavy. But there it was, steaming on the counter when I walked in. She turned from the stove, apron on, mascara just subtle enough to say, "I tried," without making it a performance. "I thought we could eat together tonight," she said. I paused at the doorway. The room smelled of garlic and effort. Soft music played in the background. Her perfume, too. The floral one I used to compliment back when compliments still mattered. I gave a quiet nod. Sure. We ate in silence. Forks scraping ceramic. Her watching me between sips of wine. I told her it was good. Because it was. But I didn't ask about her day. Didn't linger after. Just rinsed my plate and returned to the guest room like always. She stayed at the table a little longer than usual. That weekend, she upped the ante. I came home from the gym and found the bedroom blinds open wide, sunlight spilling across the bed. Clean sheets. Candles burning. Our old photo album opened on the dresser. Kara sat at the edge of the bed, wearing a dress I hadn't seen in years. The deep burgundy one. The one from our 3rd anniversary dinner, when she surprised me with a hotel room downtown and we danced barefoot in our socks. She looked at me with that half smile she used to wear when she knew she'd caught my attention. "I thought maybe we could talk tonight," she said. "Just us." I leaned against the doorframe, towel draped around my neck, sweat still drying. "What would we talk about?" She blinked. "Us." "There is no us right now, Kara," I said, not cruelly, just plainly. She stood slowly. "We've had hard seasons before. This isn't a season," I said. "It's a storm you invited in." She flinched. Only a little, but enough. I walked past her, opened my dresser drawer, pulled out fresh clothes. When I came back, she was still standing there, eyes glossy but lips pressed tight. That night, she made up the bed with extra care. She placed her phone screen down, lit the lavender candle, and changed into a silk robe she used to wear when she wanted to be touched without asking. She came to my door around 10. I didn't answer. She knocked once, soft, hesitant. "Andrew, can I come in?" I waited a beat. Then another. "No," I said. Silence. Then her footsteps retreating down the hall. I heard the bedroom door shut gently, the lock clicking a second later. The next morning, she set a hot cup of coffee on the kitchen counter before I even stepped in. 2 sugars. Dash of oat milk. Just how I used to like it. I didn't touch it. She finally spoke as I reached for my keys. "I know you're angry." I turned to her, one hand on the doorknob. "No. If I were angry, you'd still have a place to stand." "What am I supposed to do?" she whispered. "Feel it," I said. "The distance. The cold. The consequence." Her lips parted, but no words came. Just a faint tremble in her jaw. I walked out, leaving her in a kitchen that smelled like second chances and burnt toast. And behind me, for the first time, I heard her cry. Not the loud, dramatic sobs she once weaponized in arguments, but the quiet kind. The kind that comes when the person across from you no longer needs your apology. The invitation came from Mark and Elena, old friends of ours from back when Denver still felt like a new chapter. It was one of those polished house parties. Open kitchen, jazz playlist, hand-poured cocktails, too many people smiling like they weren't tired. Kara wanted to go. Said it'd be nice to be seen together again. I agreed, because I had nothing left to hide. She dressed like she wanted to be remembered. Black silk dress, gold hoops, red lipstick she hadn't worn since our engagement party. The moment we stepped inside, I saw the way people looked at us. Not as a couple, as a question. We moved separately. I caught up with an old coworker, laughed at someone's story about missing a flight to Tahoe. The laughter came easy. Lately, everything did. Kara stayed close at first. I could feel her watching me, trying to calculate how far she'd lost me by the way women glanced in my direction. At one point, I stepped outside to grab some air, or maybe just to be alone. And when I came back, she was by the bar, eyes flicking nervously between me and the woman I'd been talking to earlier. Tessa, a freelance photographer. Smart, warm, harmless. Except to Kara, who had built her marriage on the idea that I was quiet, obedient, safe. But tonight, I was none of those things. I was smiling, relaxed, present in a way I hadn't been in years. And it rattled her. Later, I was mid-conversation near the kitchen island when Kara stepped up beside me. She didn't say a word, just touched my elbow gently, leaned close, and kissed me. Not a peck, not affection. It was performance. A long, deliberate, breathy kiss designed for one thing: showmanship. I didn't kiss her back. I let it happen. Then I stepped away, slow, surgical, and turned to her with a calm voice that cut deeper than a shout ever could. I'm not in the mood to taste your lover. The words weren't loud, but they didn't need to be. Every conversation around us stopped. Even the music felt like it turned itself down. Someone coughed. A drink glass clinked softly against the counter. Kara froze. Her hand dropped from my arm like it had been burned. Her mouth opened slightly, then shut. Her cheeks flushed red, not from embarrassment, from exposure. For the first time, she realized the walls weren't just closing in. They were glass, and everyone could see through them now. A beat passed, then another. I stepped past her without another word, left the crowd to their quiet discomfort, found a chair by the window and sat down with my drink, looking out into the backyard where snow had started to fall. Faint, gentle, absolute. Across the room, people whispered behind half-empty wine glasses. Eyes darted back to her. Kara remained rooted near the island, breathing shallow, her hands wrapped around herself like armor. She didn't follow me, didn't speak, just stood there, surrounded by the life she'd curated, all of it now cracked and flickering like candlelight in a draft. And for the first time in our entire marriage, I didn't feel sorry for her, not even a little. The party bled into the driveway in a blur of awkward goodbyes and half-hearted hugs. Guests filed out in quiet clusters, eyes studiously avoiding mine or hers. No one asked questions. They didn't have to. Kara stood near the car, arms wrapped around herself, the heels she'd once strutted in now unsteady on the pavement. Her mascara had smudged just enough to betray how hard she tried not to cry in that last bathroom mirror. She was quiet until we were alone under the porch light. Then the dam cracked. That was cruel, she hissed. You humiliated me. I didn't flinch. You kissed me in a room full of people after months of silence. What exactly did you expect me to do? Perform for you? It was one moment, she said, voice rising. You didn't have to say that. I looked at her, really looked at her, not the way I used to, with warmth or patience, but like a man seeing something for what it finally was. I gave you silence for weeks, I said. You didn't ask why. Because I knew something was wrong, she shot back. I didn't want to make it worse. I took a step closer. You were already making it worse. Every night you deleted texts. Every time you walked past me and thought I couldn't feel the guilt pouring off you. She blinked, stunned still. The words landed like ice water. I know about Bryce. There. No theatrics. No yelling. Just the truth, finally spoken aloud. Her lips parted, but nothing came. I continued. The texts. The photos. The little digital trail you thought you were so careful erasing. Her hand rose halfway to her chest, like it might shield her somehow. Andrew, it wasn't like that. You told him it was harder to leave every time, I said. You told him you were waiting for the right moment. That I was distracted. That you thought I suspected something. She went pale. I read every word. For a second, she looked like she might collapse. But then came the instinct, the one she always reached for when cornered. Denial. Maybe I was confused, she whispered. Maybe I just needed something that felt alive. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so perfectly her. Then you should have had the decency to leave before rotting our life from the inside. Her voice cracked then. It wasn't love. I nodded. Exactly. Which makes it worse. She stepped toward me now, panic beginning to override pride. Please don't do this. We can fix it. We've had hard years before. We've survived worse. Worse than betrayal. I asked. Worse than watching the person I trusted most try to pretend like nothing ever happened? Her face crumpled. I'm sorry, Andrew. I made a mistake. I thought I could handle it. I didn't think you'd find out. That's the part that matters. I cut in. You didn't stop because you realized it was wrong. You stopped because I found out. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. I begged you to talk to me. I gave you weeks to say something, to show something real. You gave me candles and fake smiles. You served steak and dressed up in the same dress you once seduced me in, thinking I wouldn't notice the script. I was trying, she whispered. No, I said calmly now. You were manipulating. She took a shaky breath. So this is it. I looked up at the stars, the only things that seemed honest that night. I already called a lawyer. Kara blinked. Her mouth trembled. You're serious. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it with a swipe. On the way home from the party, I said, I scheduled a call. First thing Monday. She started crying again. Messy now. No audience to hold composure for. I stepped back toward the car. You'll get the paperwork in a few days. I'm not contesting anything, but I'm not negotiating either. She followed me for a step. Andrew, please. I opened the driver's door, turned to her one last time. This wasn't a punishment, Kara, I said quietly. It was a mirror. She stood there on the driveway, breath fogging in the cold, arms still wrapped around herself like something had come undone, and she was the only one just now feeling it. I still love you, she choked out. I know, I replied. That's what makes it so sad. Then I shut the door and pulled away. No slamming, no final look, just the sound of gravel under tires and a weight that no longer belonged to me. The courthouse smelled like old paper and resignation. I arrived 10 minutes early, wearing a charcoal suit and no tie. Clean shave, calm pulse. I brought nothing with me but a leather folder and the kind of clarity that doesn't ask questions anymore. Kara was already there. She sat 2 rows ahead, fidgeting with the strap of her purse. Her hair was pulled back tight, the way she wore it when she wanted control. She glanced over once as I entered, then quickly looked away. Her attorney sat beside her, flipping through a manila folder as if something in it might still be salvageable. It wasn't. My lawyer, Janet, sharp, composed, no nonsense, leaned in and whispered, she's trying to claim emotional duress. Wants to negotiate a softer outcome. I nodded once. We won't be doing that. The session was short, just like we planned. The judge reviewed the file without much ceremony. The printed messages were logged neatly in an exhibit tab. Kara didn't speak. Neither did I. There was nothing left to clarify. When the judge asked if both parties were certain, I said, yes. Kara hesitated. Her voice cracked as she finally forced out, yes. That was the sound of a door locking from the outside. No drama, no outbursts, just ink and silence. The papers slid across the desk. I signed first. Kara signed second. And with that, 13 years of marriage became a closed file in a government cabinet. As we stood, she tried one last pivot. The hallway outside the courtroom was quiet. Just the shuffle of a janitor's mop somewhere down the corridor and the low hum of vending machines. Kara stepped toward me, her eyes rimmed in the kind of redness that comes from nights spent rewinding every word too late. You didn't have to make it public, she whispered. That comment at the party, it ruined everything. I looked at her calmly. You ruined everything, Kara. I just stopped covering for it. She shook her head. You could have let it stay private. I was private when I gave you weeks to say something, I said. You answered with smiles and dresses. Not truth. Her voice dropped lower. They all talk about me now. I can feel it. People avoid me. I lost clients. Friends. That wasn't me, I said. That was your reflection catching up. She took another step. What happened to you? I smiled. Not cruel, just honest. I started respecting myself. She looked away then, jaw tight. Her attorney called her name from the end of the corridor. I watched her walk toward him. Her heels echoed against the linoleum, each step a little less certain than the last. And just like that, she was gone. No scene, no hugs, no promises, just distance and peace. Outside, Denver was wrapped in mid-morning stillness. The sky was bright but cold, a hard kind of blue that felt honest. I took a slow breath, and for the first time in over a decade, I exhaled without tension. No one was waiting for me. No one was watching. There was no performance left to maintain. Just me, standing in the cold. But finally whole. It was early fall when I realized I was happy again. The air had that crispness that asks nothing of you but to notice it. The leaves were gold and copper, curling at the edges, whispering change with every gust of wind. I stood near the edge of the vineyard, glass of champagne in hand, watching couples gather near the arched trellis wrapped in white lights. There was laughter in the air, the warm, easy kind you don't fake. Next to me, Olivia smiled. She wasn't loud or dramatic or constantly trying to be seen. She was steady, thoughtful, the kind of woman who listened with her eyes. We weren't married, not yet. But when she touched my arm, it didn't feel like possession. It felt like home. We'd been invited to a wedding, mutual friends. A second marriage for the groom, a first for the bride. Hope was everywhere, even in the centerpieces. Someone took a photo of us while we were laughing. I didn't even realize it at the time. Just one of those candid moments when nothing felt heavy anymore. Later that week, the photo made its way online. And Kara saw it. I know she saw it. Because late one night, I checked out of habit, not from longing, just curiosity, and her profile was still public. One post, a moody black and white quote about regret, and a like on the wedding photo I was tagged in. No comment, just that quiet, undeniable presence. She hadn't been invited. Not to this event, not to this version of me, but she was still watching. Alone, unfollowed by many who once praised her spark. She tried to reshape the story for a while. Play the victim, blame stress, blame my emotional withdrawal. But truth has a way of rooting itself, no matter how many filters you use. And in that photo, the one she saw, I wasn't pretending. I was smiling. Not because I'd won, not because I'd gotten even, but because I'd let go. And she hadn't. She traded a steady life for a fleeting thrill. Lost a husband, a home,